Let's get some more on how Republicans are tackling this inquiry. I'm joined now by Representative Mark Green. He's a member of the House Oversight Committee, also the House Homeland Security Committee. Thanks, Congressman, so much for joining us.
Thanks, Wolf, for having me on the show.
So what's your initial reaction to what we heard yesterday from these two established U.S. diplomats?
You know, if this is their shock and awe, I'm yawning. So a staffer overheard a phone call in a restaurant. I think it's absurd that we're even having that conversation. That would not even be admissible in any kind of court proceeding in the land. It's just ridiculous that this is the best they got. Yesterday was the best they got, and it was an overheard phone conversation at a restaurant. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was just going to say this was the political counselor, the counselor for political affairs at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine. He was with Ambassador Gordon Sondland, the U.S. ambassador to the European Union, and Gordon Sondland had a phone conversation on his cell phone with the president, and the political counselor overheard the conversation. Here's what Bill Taylor, the top U.S. diplomat in Ukraine, said yesterday. I'll play the clip.
Thanks.
In the presence of my staff at a restaurant, Ambassador Sondland called President Trump and told him of his meetings in Kyiv. The member of my staff could hear President Trump on the phone asking Ambassador Sondland about the investigations. Ambassador Sondland told President Trump the Ukrainians were ready to move forward. Following the call with President Trump, the member of my staff asked Ambassador Sondland what President Trump thought about Ukraine. Ambassador Sondland responded that President Trump cares more about the investigations of Biden, which Giuliani was pressing for.
So what questions will you have for David Holmes, the Counselor of Foreign Affairs, when he appears before the committees tomorrow and offers this closed-door deposition, sworn deposition?
Well, first off, if you go into the substance of what this is all about, whether or not the president should be concerned about corruption in the 2016 election process, worried about corruption as we give millions of taxpayer dollars to a foreign country, the third most, as Ernst & Young has said, the third most corrupt nation in the world. Absolutely, we want to look into this. We want this investigated. We want to determine what kind of corruption is going on before we commit U.S. taxpayer dollars. I think that's appropriate. I don't have a problem with the substance of that.
Should the White House allow people who had direct personal conversations with the president on these sensitive issues to appear before Congress, which has now launched, as you know, this formal impeachment inquiry? We're talking about the White House acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, the former national security advisor, John Bolton, for example.
Yeah, that's a great question, Wolf. But the truth of the matter is every president since the founding of the nation has had executive privilege, and the president has the right to claim that. So I think if he says, look, I don't want this individual testifying because it might lead to the release of classified information, or the president's right to actually have a conversation with his or her advisors. I mean, that's been in our governmental system, our executive powers, for a very long time. And, Democrats and Republicans have both claimed that. So I don't think that the Congress can step into that.
Well, if you're worried about sensitive classified information, they could certainly do a conversation behind closed doors in that so-called secure SCIF they have. And they could do it like that. I guess the bottom line question is this, Congressman.
Sure.
If the president did nothing wrong, has nothing to hide, if the conversation with President Zelensky was perfect in every way, what's the big deal? Why not let his top aides come up to Capitol Hill, come before your committees, and explain what happened?
Well, I think it's about the future of the presidency, and Lindsey Graham made a great point about this just the other day. What you sort of acquiesce to today becomes the standard for tomorrow, and the president has executive privilege. He should claim it, and it's about the future of the presidency.
Congressman Mark Green, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.